I've always loved watching really good communicators who have the knack of turning an ordinary experience into, well, shall we say, storytelling gold. And I think one of the best exponents of this skill is the BBC sports commentator Andrew Cotter. You'll have heard him in action recently if you watched any of the Wimbledon coverage or the very rainy Open Golf Championship from Royal Liverpool. To me, he is the Bill Bryson of sports commentary. He's a very keen observer of life. He's got a very wry, whimsical sense of humour, very self-deprecating. I just think he's terrific to listen to. Now, Cotter hosts, alongside Ian Carter and Eddie Pepperell, a podcast. It's golf themed. It's got a terrific title. It's called The Chipping Forecast. Isn't that a great name, The Chipping Forecast? And he tells a story on a recent episode, which I think is a great example of really skillful storytelling. It's a simple thing about, just a visit to a local golf driving range, but he does sprinkle magic dust onto it in his inimitable way. So the producers of the show have allowed me to use the audio clip in this particular video. So what I'll do is I'll play his audio all the way through uninterrupted so you can just listen and enjoy the story. But then I'll add a few of my own reflections and insights afterwards into what I think he does that makes that story work. So sit back and enjoy hearing Mr. Cotter in full flow.
I struggle at Wimbledon because the days are so long, I struggle for exercise, and if I don't get any exercise, I go slightly mad. So on the way back from Wimbledon, because I'm staying at an Airbnb, I'm staying in a camper van with Charles Hawtrey down the A3, and there is, Ian will know this driving range, in New Malden, there's a big driving range called World of Golf. And I went along, I thought, so I'll stop in on my way back to my Airbnb, and I'll just hit some golf balls. Because A, I'm coming back to golf, and B, it would be some exercise. So I was hitting some balls, and then Saturday night on this range, some people go there for the night out, and this group of teenagers came in, being rather loud and loud. I'll be honest, I mean, it was a kind of group of teenagers that if you were walking towards them on the pavement, you would suddenly pretend that you had to go over you saw someone on the other side of the road, and that you had to go and talk to them. I mean, not me, I'm hard as nails, I would have just bashed through them like Richard Ashcroft with our video. But anyway, they were having a whale of a time. So they set up in the two bays next to me, and they were just hammering away at these balls. I think it might have been the first time they'd ever played golf. So they were just hammering into the mat, down on the balls going about 20 yards, 30 yards, balls going into the nets beside my bay. And I was just working my little tight, controlled, spinny 70-yard wedges, just working the short green there. And then I thought, no, I've got to assert my alpha male dominance here. So I got to impress these teenagers. So I got my driver out, went straight to the big dog. And then, Eddie, I'm hammering away like DeChambeau on the range of the Masters last year. You know, when Vijay Singh was watching him in awe. Well, these teenagers were all suddenly Vijay Singh, standing back in awe as I just wailed away at the driver. And again, I think I popped my shoulder at some point, but tried to mask it. Because it meant so much to me to impress these teenagers on a Saturday night in New Malden. And I got one out over 300, I got 307 yards. I don't think that these things are particularly accurate. And I think I hooked it massively. But anyway, they'd never seen anything like it. I think they might have called me old man at one point. But they were just so impressed. And I then decided to engage them in conversation. But when I'm in a situation like that, for some reason I go broad Glaswegian. So, all right, boys, how you getting on there? I'm doing all right. Because I think it makes me sound harder. And they didn't understand that anyway, so I didn't really understand what they were saying. So, but they understood that I was the alpha male of the range. And that's all that mattered. They thought of me as some sort of superhuman, and I went away on a Saturday night with a warm glow because I had briefly earned the approval of those teenagers at World of Golf in New Malden.
It's a great little story, isn't it? I think he really does it justice. So let me now suggest one or two things that he does that I think make it really work as a story. I'll overlay some text as I'm speaking on top of a few golfing scenes. so that you don't have to look at me all the time. So here we go. So first of all, his delivery. He's got a lovely voice to listen to. It always strikes me that he's a very natural speaker. He doesn't sound overly rehearsed or too perfect. It's a little bit rough around the edges, and that can make it more authentic. And secondly, the content. There are some classic storytelling elements in here. You introduce a character with motivation. So this is Cotter as the main character. You put them in a situation. His motivation is to get some exercise and work on his game, hence the visit to the golf range. It's helpful if there's something unusual about the character as well. So for him, he likes to portray himself as a bit of a wimp. And if you've seen him before, he actually looks like he'd blow over in a stiff breeze. He's pencil thin. You have to have an inciting incident in a good story, something that happens that moves things in a new direction. So this is the teenagers arriving on the scene. You've got the contrast between Cotter and the kids who arrive, and they're characterised in a way, you'd walk across the street if they approached you. And the kids have a very different motivation for visiting the range. They're not there for serious practice, they're there for a good time. He lets us into his head. He's sharing with us what he's thinking, what he's going through at the time. He's got to impress the youngsters somehow. And again, this helps us to not just understand what's happening, but to feel what he's going through or empathise with his situation. And this leads to a change of tactic, and that's getting out the big dog, pulling out the driver, which is the club that he would normally hit the ball furthest with. There's a turning point. They look impressed. He's using the analogy as well of DeChambeau, that very, very big, powerful American player at the Masters, impressing another tour pro. So he's using that as an analogy to show how the kids are impressed with his power at the range. There's a moment where he engages the enemy. Now, I know that they're not an enemy in a conventional sense, but they are the other party. So there is a degree of apprehension maybe about engaging them in conversation about whether it will go down well, will they understand what I'm trying to say. And the funny thing about when he's dealing with the pressure, how he deals with it is to go full Glaswegian. And in the end, neither side really understood each other very well. You have a satisfying outcome. So he's established his status with the youngsters as the alpha male of the driving range. And he sums things up beautifully. I went away with a warm glow. So these are some of the really powerful classical elements of good storytelling. So I hope you found some value in this. And if you like this video and you want more, do subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments as well what sort of content you'd like to see from me in the future. This is an unusual one today, I know. And we'll get back on the golf course very, very shortly. So I will see you again soon. Bye for now.